Hello again, knife lovers. Welcome back to the Knife Delights channel. I want to thank everybody that viewed my very first inaugural video, my introduction. I was quite pleased with the response to it and the number of subscribers. If you did subscribe, I thank you very much for doing so. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about a topical item. It has to do with the philosophy of, or the argument of, buying USA-made knives or foreign-made knives. It's topical because here in October of 2021, we're all experiencing supply shortages. Goods just cannot be moved. We have shipping containers that can't get offloaded, and if they do get offloaded, they can't get trucked to their destination. And it just kind of highlights the dangers of allowing our manufacturing to all go overseas to where we're not doing it ourselves. So this issue has come up quite a bit within the knife community. There are a lot that say I will only buy USA made knives because they want to support USA businesses and workers. And there are others that says, hey, I'm just going to go find the best deal I can on whatever knife. So it really is a personal decision. I just wanted to say that sometimes you do pay more for a USA-made knife, but if it helps to keep the company in business so that we retain our manufacturing base here for knives, in the long run, even though we pay a little more, in the long run, we're actually saving. So in the first video, I talked about buck knives, and one thing that drew me to them is their reputation. They're kind of a legend. They're a U.S. company, and about 80% of their knives are manufactured here in the U.S. Now, they have come out with a few lines that they manufacture over in China. When I first purchased a couple of the buck knives without checking it out, the country of origin first, I was a little dismayed that I'd bought some that had been made in China. I kind of fall into the camp. I want to try and buy USA-made knives. But the more I've thought about it, as competitive as the knife business is, if Buck and other knife companies, they're not the only one, but if they have to have some of their models and patterns made overseas, if the profits from those help keep the U.S. operations afloat, then I'm all for it. I don't have as near of a problem with it as I did have. So I just thought I'd give you an example here. Now, I don't know if Buck ever made a USA canoe knife. This is a slip joint pocket knife. And it's on a canoe frame, canoe pattern, and it's quite obvious it looks like a canoe. These are quite popular knives at one time, and within certain collecting communities, they love to collect different canoes. Just show you here briefly. And I'm going to be going more in depth on a lot of these knives in later videos, but just kind of an overview of a sample. Buck had this made over in China. It lowered the price. They're able to keep knives such as this in the big box stores and compete with the totally foreign companies. So it allows those with limited income the opportunity to still buy from an American company at a competitive price. So when you get into collecting, if you want to collect canoes, you're pretty limited on buying USA-made canoe knives. The only other one that I know of, and I'll stress that I know of, there may be others, would be case knives. And this is one version of a case canoe knife. It's a miniature. They call it the baby Butterbean is what they call it. But it's manufactured here in the U.S. I believe they do also manufacture a full-size model too. The canoe is an interesting pattern because the way it's rounded off on the ends, it's meant so it can slip in and out of your pocket easy and not catch on anything. And it gives you a nice wide blade. So in the collecting world, if you like collecting slip joint knives, or grandpa knives as they're called, traditional pocket knives, you are somewhat limited on buying strictly USA made. So what happens when a company can't compete? Well, this is one of the old timers made by Schrade. Schrade was a long-time knife manufacturer here in the US. They just couldn't compete. Back in the early 2000s, I think they even, or in the 90s, tried to move their manufacturing operations over to Ireland in order to cut some costs and be able to keep competing, and they just couldn't do it. And sometime in the early 2000s, they sold the company, and they sold the company name. So you can still find a lot of their models out there, but they're not USA made. So another example of a buck knife you can buy in a big box store here. It was, I don't know, $23, $24 or something like that. Pretty nice knife. Again, manufactured in China. Nice and smooth. To me, it's a good quality knife. And one of their fixed blades. This is called the Selkirk. This is the small version. It's a very nice knife. And again, I'll go more in depth on some of these knives. Now with buck, if you're buying them in a big box store, in a clam pack, it's pretty easy to identify. Big old American flag, or they'll have this up in the corner, made in the USA. Pretty easy to identify. If you're buying online, you can always check the country of origin under the description of the knife, and it can tell you where it is made. Now, one of the reasons I can't be strictly USA made is, and I had to take this out of my pocket. This is a newer model Swiss Army knife, and this is probably my most carried knife. Doesn't matter what I'm wearing, where I'm going, I always have this one in my pocket. I like it because it has an actual Phillips screwdriver head on it. So it is a multi-tool, several different blades, toothpick and tweezers, standard Swiss Army knife things. So I obviously don't have too big a problem with a foreign-made knife because I really love this Swiss Army knife. Well, I guess to wrap things up, I would encourage everyone, to the best of their ability, to buy USA made for the reasons I've stated. Let's keep our manufacturing base of knives here in the US. We also have to realize that the knife might be made in the US, but the materials might not come from the US. Buck uses a lot of ebony in their knife handles. Well, ebony is not available. It's not grown here in the United States, so they have to import it. So even a made in USA knife is not truly 100% USA because they use imported materials, things that we don't have here in the US. So anyway, happy knife hunting. I hope that you're out there getting ready to grow your collection, find a pattern, find a manufacturer, find a style of knife that you like and want to collect, and enjoy going and looking for them. Until next time, thanks again for watching, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe.